Everyone to the June 13th meeting of the Pine Bluffs Town Council. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I think we're just doing it when you got there.
Okay. Moved and seconded, we approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The first item on our agenda is the 2022 mayoral scholarship winners. And so if I could have you come up here. The first recipient is Alexis DePaula. Second winner is Carson.
I just hide behind these kids.
Congratulations, guys. Look forward to seeing you do great things, right? Item number 2 is public hearing for the Wyoming Department of Transportation easement. So we need to fully read the public hearing notice, correct? Okay. Pursuant Wyoming statute 15-1-112B, the town of Pine Bluffs, Wyoming will hold a public hearing on the sale of property as described as a parcel of land in Lot 1 and 2, Block 8 of the original town of Pine Bluffs, situated in the northwest quarter, northeast quarter, section 15, township 14, north, range 60 west of the 6th PM in Laramie County, Wyoming on the 9th day of June 2022. The town proposes to sell said property to the state of Wyoming through its Wyoming Department of Transportation on the following terms. Sale price $250, anticipated date of sale June 10th, 2022. The appraised value of the aforesaid property has been determined to be $2,215. Any comments?
Why are they getting a deal when it's appraised at a higher amount?
Because at the same time, they are taking care of some of our drainage issues. The property is they're going to fix the drain at the culvert that goes across Highway 30 at Texas Trail Park. And so part of our benefit from that is that we think as we improve drainage on that half of town, that will be an improvement for us.
So where's that actually located, the property they bought?
Right, there's a culvert that goes under, they just needed a little more room to modernize the culvert, I guess, so to speak. Any other comments? Any comments? Do we have a motion after that? I don't know if we have, do we have a motion on the back of the public hearing?
Thanks.
We should know this. I don't think so. Okay. Well, that takes care of that matter. Do we have an official public hearing on? We have a, no, we have a public hearing. The next thing on the agenda is the adoption of the 2022 budget. We do that separate from the, like, I'm confused.
Hearing first,
Okay,
and just read the title, or read it 3 times for,
ordinance 2023-01, annual appropriation ordinance for the town of Pine Bluffs, Wyoming for a fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023. Any comments? Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we will move to the consent agenda. I would like to remove item 3B from the consent agenda and put it as item 1 under new business.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented with the removal of item 3C.
B.
3B.
I thought it was C. Sorry.
Oh,
Which one?
excuse me, I would like to amend my request to change the agenda by removing items 3B and C from the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda with the amendment to remove items 3B and 3C.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as updated. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So, on to new business. The first thing on new business would be the sign permit for 711 Parsons Street. Did everybody get a chance to look at that? So I will just jump out and say that I'm not comfortable with allowing private signage on, permanent private signage on public property.
Just curious about that too.
Is there something that we can do that, put it on the other side of the street and,
So you're
You know-
you're familiar with
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
where they're talking about here.
right, they're just wanting to sell coffee out the back door, like a drive up.
I feel like they're anticipating a drive-up window, but, so you would need to pull down that alleyway to do it.
Is there enough room in that alley with the existing business? I mean, there's enough room, but is it gonna be
Yeah.
congested?
Well, we'll have to work together, I guess.
Yeah,
It's going to be a challenge, but, I mean, I guess that's another issue, but, like they are challenged here, I would point out, they're challenged by the fact that they have no frontage on the other side
right.
to put the sign. an idea I had that I would propose. I know the fellow who owns this Napa building here. And from the west, I am certainly workable on putting a sign
On the building?
on the front part of the building with their arrow. Like, I mean, I think there's solutions where we don't open ourselves up for, my concern is the precedence it sets by putting private signage on public property, but we can deal with that on a case-by-case basis when it comes to us if
Well, I think that if there's a feasible way to come to an agreement without doing this.
my other concern is there's a lot of parking along that street and how much, I mean, we'll go through all of this and then the sign's not very visible anyway. I mean,
Right.
depending on who's parked there and time of day and all of that. So,
I feel that myself, that it would be better anywhere on the other side of the street, you know,
Couldn't they just get a movable sign that they take down every morning? Or, like for the pool, we put up, once the pool is open, we love our children, drive slowly. Could they put something like that
over on,
up?
yeah. I guess I'm not as opposed to that as I am
Yeah.
a permanent sign.
I mean, it'd just be temporary, and then perhaps we could revisit in the future if it doesn't work, or you could meet with them personally since you know the owner of a nearby business and work with them that way.
Sure. I think that's.
I like them two options better than putting it across on the city's property.
Well, that would be on our side of the fence, and so
Sure.
I feel like we own right to the fence line, correct? I just, yeah,
Still, it's another sign to
Right?
mow around and mess around with, and we have never let anybody else put private signage up
Well,
on city property.
yeah, I don't have any historical reference to know of anywhere that we have. That's not to say it's never happened.
Yeah, not saying it hasn't, but I don't remember it happening.
And I was more thinking those signs that, coffee shops in larger towns put out on the sidewalks. You
Right.
could just get one designed such that it would just say coffee, arrow.
Well, I
It
think,
wouldn't have to be in the grass.
right.
Yeah. With a flag.
Yeah. People are generally going slow around there, so, I don't
Well,
know, that might be a mess.
yes, I'm of the opinion that, we need to find a more workable solution than that.
Okay.
Anybody, any other comment?
Well, if you put one sign up and then your business space, well, I want a sign up showing I got deliveries going down the alley. You put one sign up, you put a second sign up, before you know, you got 3 or 4 up there. I'm against putting it on town property or that way.
Any other discussion?
So we just need to make a motion and vote it down or no?
I don't think you have to make a motion.
Okay.
Item number 2 would be the variance request on 407 West 8th, or West 4th.
I guess I have a few questions. It was a little vague when they state they're requesting changes to their property, like what specific changes, if they're asking for a zoning ordinance, like a zoning change. Also, they're specifically requesting a water riser, sewer connection, and continued electrical access. I was just unclear of, like, what they're requesting that, but are they requesting just our permission to do that or some sort of funding? I guess some of that just seemed vague and I wasn't sure if we knew any of the answers to that.
So, the owners of that property have contacted us. They sold the single wide trailer that was there previously. Someone bought that, the trailer's being removed. And they would like to have what they're requesting, the riser and the electrical service for when they come back to town. They travel eastern Nebraska and stay with family, and they come back and they want to be able to park their camp trailer there when they come back into town. That's what they're requesting.
They got a motorhome. And there's already a riser, everything's already there. The riser and everything, but it's not a frost-free. So what they want to do is put a frost-free hydrant there and use the existing sewer and everything that's there. They already still have a garage on there, and they just want to be able to come and access their property and then pack up and leave when they go.
Okay.
So that's what's happening there. At least I don't remember it being a frost-free. I think it just comes up
So-
out of the ground as a copper.
I guess my concern is conceptually, like, is this, conceptually, what do you, like, all the nuances of how they get it hooked up and all that are one issue. Conceptually, what do you think about RV sites on a town lot?
I don't see any problem with it where we got an RV sitting on town property anyway that's been there for several years across the sidewalk. At least this is on their property. I mean, that's
Right.
always
No,
been
no.
heartburn for me, and
We talked about one.
we can't seem to ever fix the problem, you know? And I don't know why, you know, this is at least on their property and they keep it looking nice. They'll probably pour more concrete too, to take,
So,
so it continues to stay nice.
so if that's the direction we go, are they proposing that we keep these services hooked up and they pay the monthly minimums, whether they're here or not here,
Well, I'm sure.
otherwise, you know, on a,
Sounds like we might need more clarity though, just to be sure.
well, I think that's
Probably
what
mentioned.
I think
Yeah.
that, I mean, that would be my bare minimum. If you want access to our stuff, you
Well, they
gotta
got
pay for access to our stuff, right?
they got electrical service that'll
So
be
when
on
they're
anyway.
gone, do they shut everything off and then when they come
No.
back, hook it back up?
Just waters, you know. That'll be the only thing that they unhook, the sewer, and unhook the water and have water while they're here.
Yeah,
Yeah, when they're here, but when they're gone, is everything shut
I
off?
think we're talking about their physical hooking and unhooking. That's my point, is like, I don't wanna be sending people over there to turn water on and
Oh,
off
no.
and all of that
No.
stuff. If we're turning water on
That's-
for this property, they have a service, pay the monthly
That's why
minimum.
they would like to put a frost-free hydrant in there, then they wouldn't have to, you know.
Right.
It drains back and it's not a problem. It's on all the time.
Well, I think it's a little different, given that they already have a structure around the
Right.
property. We're not,
I could see if it was different, under a different circumstance. Maybe, but. And there's homes just across the street that have been,
no, I get it.
you know,
Well, I think they have, you know, as long as they're held to the standards that everyone else is held to, in terms of when they're gone, who's
yep,
mowing, who's keeping it, like,
sure,
I think that's their response, you know.
yeah. Absolutely. I don't have no problem with it.
Okay.
I think it's fine. Do we just ask for more information from them? Or we
Well,
go
I
with
think
what we
we,
have?
I think we just require those things, like if
Yeah.
you're gonna have services, you have to have services. If you don't want, I mean, I know we've allowed that at some points in the past, I think, but my feeling is if we're gonna have year-round services, that's what we should have.
Yep.
I mean, they're paying
Agreed.
the infrastructure costs with their monthly minimums,
Absolutely.
and they should have to pay that.
Yep.
Any other
Mayor and
thoughts?
council, will this be a permanent, or is this like a finite amount of time? Will we be reviewing this annually, or?
You know, that's a,
Can we ask them what they're leaning towards?
my,
They seem to have a really unusual, well, not unusual, but unknown future.
this is probably a question for Alex too. I think, like you said, one of the issues that Kim brings up, I think, is a good one. If we approve this, which is, I don't even know what, some type of variance, would the variance carry forward with? Did something bad happen?
It's
Amber Alert.
Would the variance carry forward with the property?
Yes.
So can we write a variance with the specified end date? My concern is they sell the property to someone else who wants to do the same thing, and all of a sudden we don't have this historical thing, we have someone who,
Yeah, it might be wiser to do kind of what we've done before, with various things, and that is to license it. So we essentially say, you can do it until we say you can't. And then it doesn't attach in perpetuity to the property.
okay.
Is that a whole different, like, application process? Would we just have them do something specific to do that?
Just agree to it.
Can we hook it to, as long as Malcolm's own the property, that they can do it? But if they ever sell it, then this variance agreement goes away?
Probably can, yeah. It gets a little weird there because if they put it into a trust,
Sure.
do they still own it?
I like the other way in that if it creates a problem that we didn't foresee, then we have some mechanism to
Sure.
go the other way.
Yeah.
You can think it up, I can draft it.
I think what you suggested sounds like the most,
I agree.
You guys tell me where it is and what you want.
Okay, I'll get you the legals tomorrow.
Okay.
yes, can we hear a motion to draft a
Sure.
license agreement for 407 West 4th?
Sure. I move to draft a variance license agreement for 407 West 4th Street.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to draft a license for variance for 407 West 4th Street. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. All right, new business. Item 5. Review and approve change order 01 to the SCADA replacement project. Kim, would you like to tell us more about that?
Yes, this change order number 1 is to add in our new central low nitrate deep well, well number 10. When we originally put well number 10 out for bid, it was prior to our updating our SCADA system. So now that we are updating the SCADA system, we would no longer put in any of the old system that was once counted under that contract. It will now go under the ITC contract to put in like the VFD and flow meters and all the other appurtenances that go along with the telemetry for well number 10. The change order is for $11,244. This would bring the contract total to $288,274, which is still well below our project dollar amount of $310,000.
I move to approve the change order 01 presented for the SCADA replacement project.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the change order 01 to the SCADA replacement project. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is economic development. Economic incentive packages. So I've had some discussion with Kim about this, and I think we feel like we could offer these, but maybe we need to, you know, this fits within the parameter of what we talked about. Obviously, it's somewhat self-explanatory, but I guess conceptually, we just need to hear what you guys think about offering these type of things.
Yeah, I think that it's great to be able to offer this, especially if we have the means to do so. I am curious how, like, is it just a new business comes into town and we're offering these? Is there going to be some sort of like, I guess, application process asking, like, showing need or showing, I mean, X, Y, Z in order to do this? I guess I just have a few, like, housekeeping questions as far as that goes.
Sure. Historically, for other economic incentive packages, we have simply, the business or the company or the investing group or whoever has just come to the town to say, are you able to assist us in our venture? And we haven't had them fill out any kind of an application for that. We've simply, I've pulled together the numbers for what I thought would be some kind of a fair incentive that would fit within our budget, that would also allow for other businesses, if they came to us throughout the year, to fit into that annual budget. So for that, I have $15,000 a year. This one would use about $4,000 of that $15,000 for FY23. And then presenting it to you as a determination of whether you think this would be, you know, a business that we think the town should support. And I think that, you know, any new business coming to Pine Bluffs would be something you all would want to support. But if you would like us to develop an application package for it, we certainly can, so that you can look at maybe a business plan or something along those lines.
What happens after the 3 years are up? Then what?
And they're on their own,
They're on their own?
yes.
Okay. And if they close down within those 3 years, that's it? They
That's
just
it,
close?
there would be no, like, if there was any money left over, that would not go to that business.
Okay.
So I think the one thing I like about it, and my preference is that we cap all of these at the 4,000. Like, I think if you round up, you know, as I've said, that, you know, it would allow you to do 4 of these projects every year at the maximum. And some of those, based on electrical costs, may never get to the maximum, I don't think, but what I like about it is that it's at a percentage basis and it's over 3 years, so it's not like we're handing them $12,000 and saying, here you go, spend it however you think's best.
Right.
They, if they're not in business for over a year, they only get the first year's rebate. We're not into it for the whole thing. And we hope that doesn't happen, obviously, but, it is stretched out there. That being said, I think going forward, we do need an application process whereby a business plan or something, some type of mechanism where they have to cross some threshold of effort to
Yeah.
obtain said funding. That's my personal thing. If you want the money, you gotta.
Yeah. And to give you all kind of a warm fuzzy on this one, we went through an application process for this business to go before the Laramie County Joint Powers Board for a grant. And that grant was awarded, so this would, they were found worthy by one other agency through that process, so we actually have that grant application information that we could also supply to you if you would like some more of that for this particular business.
Yeah.
I would just to be clear, can we rewrite this where it has the estimates and the estimates appear to fall just a bit over that? Can we rewrite this where it's clear that the maximum yearly allowance is 4,000?
Yes, Mayor.
Rather than if they're a heavy user,
Right.
it's burn up all in the first year.
Yes, I can do that.
I would like that.
Yeah, me too. We need a.
Yeah.
Okay. I move to approve the economic incentive package for Curry's Cuisine with the changes made by Kim showing the cap at $4,000 per year.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we approve the economic incentive package for Curry Cuisine with the changes made. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, ordinance 2023-01, third reading. The annual appropriations ordinance for the town of Pine Bluffs, Wyoming for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023. And I will turn it over to Kim to read all of the specifics.
On behalf of Mayor Fornstrom, to the members of the Pine Bluffs Town Council and members of the Pine Bluffs community, I am pleased to present the Town of Pine Bluffs fiscal year 2023 annual appropriations budget to support our vision and goals and to continue with the excellent services and programs that we provide to our community. This document will serve as an operating guide throughout the budget process, and the final adopted budget will serve as a management tool for the fiscal year July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. The proposed budget has been prepared to meet legal obligations mandated by Wyoming statute and Town of Pine Bluffs ordinance. It sustains core town services, funds contractual increases and resident programs, and makes modest changes to some key positions. It maintains the town on a steady course and readies leadership for the busy year that awaits us. The total fiscal year 2023 budget of, hang on. I had to change, sorry about that. $9,168,999 includes the following fund totals. General fund of $1,459,675, which is a cautious increase of 11.4% from the last fiscal year total of $1,292,265. The airport fund is holding fairly level at $93,214. And at $2,010,300, the utility fund is also holding level from fiscal year '22. The capital fund project, the capital project fund in place for FY '23 is actively scheduled for $5,605,810. By actively scheduled, these are funds that have been awarded or are anticipated to include several six-penny projects at $4,891,000 that have been recently bonded as of June 8th, 2022. As additional grant funds are made available, a resolution will be presented for your review to adjust the budget. The budget is a balanced and sustainable plan that is reflective of the town's priorities and values. It is a blueprint for financial and policy decisions that will be discussed and brought to action throughout the coming year. With record inflation rates and supply chain shortfalls, we face some challenges in the year ahead, but we are confident that a strategic approach to spending, aggressive grant applications, and diversifications in our normal capital planning will bridge those gaps. We must continue to focus on broadening economic development by continuing to prepare our north property for new construction, and the increased need for housing marketability by partnering with state and Laramie County, the Wyoming Business Council, real estate developers, and private corporations and investors to start building our Golden Prairie district to attain sustainable and impactful growth. In conclusion, I would like to thank all the town staff members for their assistance and cooperation in preparing a strategic and lean budget. During each fiscal year, our directors, the police chief, and I work closely to determine budgetary needs. Through their due diligence, through accurate and timely expense reporting, detailed accounting methods, and sheer determination to find alternate funding sources through grants and donations, our team continues to move forward with many important initiatives and priorities. We are all committed to addressing the ongoing needs of our growing town while committing to provide increased levels of services to the community at very reasonable costs. Thank you for your consideration of the proposed budget. The changes that were included from reading 2 to reading 3 does include an increase in economic development funds to $15,000. It also includes the proposed changes to insurance coverage for +1 and family members. In the last section of your budget, you will also find a complete list of the breakdown of the projects. If you would like me to review those, I can.
I don't have any questions.
I move to approve ordinance 2023-01 on the third reading.
I do have one question. What's the increase in the insurance you said?
The increase is only to those, so for town employees, our insurance is for years has been that the employee single rate is covered 100% by the town. In the past, the employees that have a family plan or a +1, a plus spouse or a plus a dependent, have either paid it all out of pocket or up until a couple of years ago, they were able to have up to $1,000 covered, but that $1,000 includes the employee's portion as well. Well, considering that the employee's portion is now up to just under $900 a month, that $1,000 doesn't make much of a difference for those that, just the rates increase tremendously. Several other municipalities, we researched 20 other towns and cities, and there's a wide variety of options out there. Some offer a percentage base. They'll pay 75% of the cost of a family plan, or 85, or even 98% cost. There are some towns that actually pay 100%. I think that what we do by establishing a percentage is we set ourselves up for possible difficulty in the future depending on how insurance rates go. By setting a flat rate and saying that, we would approve up to $1,250 for a plus one or $1,500 a month for a family plan, we then have kind of a set dollar amount that we can work with in the budget every year. So that if partway through the year something changes, because our contract usually changes in January 1st, then, or rather, our elections change January 1st. Then this will just make it much more of a stable number rather than a percentage.
So plus one is like a $250 for the person, right?
We pay up to $250.
Yeah, and
Or
then,
actually, it's up to $1,250, which includes the employee's rate, which is
Yeah.
just under $900. So that would be $350 to that. The employee would still come out of pocket, I think it's around $350.
and what about the family plan?
Currently, the family plan is an additional $1,200 a month for the employee. If we give them up to $1,500, that will reduce that to the $600 mark, 600 and something dollars.
That's good enough for me.
Okay.
I'm always in favor of employees.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 2023-01. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yep,
Aye.
clerk needs to call the roll.
Oh,
That's right.
Councilmember Kestner,
Aye.
Councilmember Ragsdale,
Aye.
Mayor Fornstrom,
aye.
Councilmember Leetza,
Aye.
Councilmember Moran.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's approved. Moving on to visitor comments. I see Jeff is with us.
Jackie's gonna get me set up to make me look good.
Can you guys see?
Mhm.
Okay.
Put it over there by the door, then the council members can turn sideways, and then some of the audience members will be able to see.
There?
I think we did that one other time before, did we, Dave?
You let me know what you wanna do.
You wanna go that way with it then?
Whatever way is easiest. Where's the
Okay,
cord?
well, it's already hooked
I can take that out if it's in the
Okay,
way.
yeah, let's take it out. There you go.
I didn't even think of that until. This one's
You're gonna run out of electrical cord.
Okay. I guess we don't. What did we do last time?
I think I had it back there. But then he doesn't have his laptop here, so.
Oh, got it.
We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Can you reach it?
Now if you plug it in, you should be good.
You can tilt it back that way some,
Yeah.
so they can see, at least from my perspective. Okay.
Server is under maintenance.
Not my server. I guess we're gonna watch a movie.
Right? Maybe not.
That thing was up there in the background, but
It went away. now we just want that to go away. There you go.
Okay.
If I can see.
There we go. Well, good evening. My name is Jeff Donahoe. I'm a part of your community planning team. My function was to evaluate the viability of an assisted living facility here in the community. One of the obvious drivers for an assisted living facility is population. How many people do we have within the key age demographics that could use an assisted living facility? And really, this is a summary of Pine Bluffs and some of the surrounding communities, Kimball obviously being the largest. There's about 1,500 people over the age of 60 in this market area. When you get over the age of 65, it's just over 1,100. These are the people that would be likely to use an assisted living facility. Over 75 is actually more likely, but eligible at over 65. All of these markets are expected to grow quite a bit here in the next 10 years or so. We'll talk about that in a little bit. What makes up an assisted living center? Essentially, you know, it's a facility where people get assistance with daily tasks, whether that's personal care, whether that's doing group activities or having communal meals, and most importantly is assistance with medication. And that's a key factor because in terms of licensing from the state, you have to have nursing staff on site at all times. Here in Wyoming, there are 34 licensed assisted living facilities. The average size is 49 beds. The largest is 155, the smallest is 9 beds. That's attached to a hospital, I believe. Five of the facilities here in the state are 100 rooms or more. Those total about 600 beds altogether. Laramie County has 5 assisted living facilities at the present time. All of those are in Cheyenne. Natrona County also has 5 facilities with 425 beds. All of those are in Casper. Across the state, the average cost is about $4,200 a month. In Cheyenne, it's much higher at $4,600, and in Casper, it's even higher than that at about $5,500. One of the things that I did was to put together an operating budget for what an assisted living center might look like here in the community. As you can see, the nursing staff is a big piece of the budget because you have to have 24-hour coverage, someone on site at all times. That's about $167,000 a year. Total personnel costs, when you add in benefits and taxes and insurances, it's almost $900,000 a year. When you look at the operating cost for the facility itself, utilities, insurance, food costs, that sort of thing, that's almost another $500,000, bringing us up to about $1.36 million a year. What does that mean for us? Well, if we had 15 beds a year, we'd have to charge $7,500 a month to break even. This is without construction costs. This is just the operating cost for the facility. If we were to get it up to 24 beds, we could get the price down to about $4,700 a month. That's, you know, almost $60,000 a year. That's a significant cost, higher than Cheyenne. What would it take to pay that? If you're a senior and you have to pay $60,000 a year for your room and board, essentially, you know, HUD, for you and I, recommends no more than 30% of your income go to your housing costs. In an assisted living facility, it's more like 50 to 60%. But to make the numbers easy, we'll use 50%. I'd have to make $120,000 a year for 50% of my income to equal that $60,000 a year cost. At the higher break-even number, that's $7,500 a month, you're looking at $90,000 a year in cost to live in that facility. You need $180,000 a year for that to be 50% of your income. We only have 136 senior households in this group that I looked at earlier that make more than $75,000 a year. And we only have 42 households that make more than $100,000 a year. What this means is there's not a heck of a lot of people who could pay for a facility that we might establish here. And so one of the things that I looked at as an alternative is something called a board and care facility. It's like a boarding house. Those of us who are a little older kind of remember boarding houses. And it's very similar to an assisted living. They have communal meals, housekeeping, laundry services, some limited transportation. They don't do medication, and they don't do personal care. Those two things reduce the need for nursing staff. And so because of that, it's substantially cheaper to operate a board and care facility. As you can see here, instead of $880,000 in personnel, you're looking at about $370,000. Operating costs are under $400,000, so our total budget is $750,000 as compared to that $1.35 million that we had in the assisted living facility analysis. What does that take to break even? If we only do 15 beds, it's still over $4,000 a month. But if you can get to 24 beds, it's substantially lower, $2,600 a month. Still not inexpensive, but at that rate, there are people here in the community that could stay in the community for another 10 or 12 or 15 years, rather than being in their homes, having to maintain the property, dealing with snow plowing and grass cutting and all those things. And it's more of a community for them of people who are at a similar stage in life. I will tell you unquestionably, it's probably 75% women because they outlast us. That's our fault, I'm sure. But realistically, you know, I looked at one up in Torrington. They had one of these board and care facilities for about 20 years, and they just built an assisted living facility. And the assisted living facility is a transition option for those people who can't quite do the board and care anymore, need more help. Now, they spent over $9 million to build 30 rooms of assisted living in Torrington. That's about $310,000 a unit for a 500 square foot unit. You add in all of the common area spaces, it's about twice that, so it's about 1,000 square feet per unit. Over $300 a foot to build that. It's a significant number. The staffing costs are much higher, and the ability to afford is much lower. And so, you know, from our perspective, we're just too small of a town to afford an assisted living facility at the moment. We also don't have the kind of amenities in terms of medical care that a lot of assisted living facilities do. That's why they're located in Casper and Cheyenne and areas where there are hospitals nearby. We're 23 miles from Kimball. It's just a little bit too far. There are 1,600 plus beds here in Wyoming. As I said, the operating costs really are significantly higher, makes the break-even point significantly higher for us. You'd probably have to get to 24 beds to make an assisted living facility fly in terms of reasonableness of the cost. And we still wouldn't have the kind of amenities that they have at the centers in Cheyenne. You know, pools, fitness centers, church or chapel, you know, meeting rooms, computer labs, libraries, all those things are additional money and additional cost. And it doesn't seem to make sense that we could do that here for a small community. The board and care, you know, the cost is much lower to construct it because it doesn't have the number of offices, it doesn't have as much common area. People's units are a little bit bigger, but the common area is much smaller. You know, we have 1,100 people here that are probably our target market in the community here, in the surrounding communities that I showed you at the beginning. You know, we'd have to get 2 to 3% of them that could afford to live in a center, an assisted living center, which there's just not that many people in the area that make that kind of money. A board and care is much more cost effective, still not inexpensive, but it's an option for people who want to stay in the community, don't want to go to Cheyenne, that want to be here for another 5 or 10 or 15 years before they have to go to an assisted living facility. So that's all I have. Happy to answer questions. Yes?
I was just curious, by the way, thank you.
Sure.
A lot of good information there. Do you know if Cheyenne's, since that's our closest real example, if their assisted living facilities are full or if they generally have vacancies?
I think they were full until COVID.
Okay,
Then some vacancies opened up and they're having a hard time moving people in.
okay.
I think they're coming back to near capacity,
So maybe fair to say in normal years, they're full and people aren't waiting.
pretty close. And, yeah, I mean, there's always turnover.
Well,
It's a fact of life or fact of death.
and I was just curious, because I was wondering, I agree with your final conclusion that probably starting with the board and care might be the best place to start here,
Yep.
just based on demand. But then I wonder how much overflow from Cheyenne we might get, where people want to stay in the area.
Right,
They can't get in there.
you know, one of the things that we looked at is, how much land would we need?
Yeah,
And I think probably around 2 acres would give you room for the initial facility, and if you wanted to expand, you could expand a little. If you wanted to be more comfortable or prepare for an assisted living down the road, maybe 4 acres. And I don't know how big the pieces were that we looked at. But, you know, there's a possibility. The other thing is, you know, a board and care, people are more mobile. Most of them drive. It could be in the north side of the community. Assisted living, they don't get out much. And so the bus transportation, you know, I talked with the senior center folks here, and I talked with some of the guys having coffee there one morning, and their first thing was, don't do anything to hurt the senior center. You know, she does a great job, and she does. You know, we had great discussions with her, and, you know, I mean, I think her program could help support a board and care facility. You know, if there was room to do it close by, that'd be great, but if we could also maybe construct a new senior center with the board and care, that would be a nice win for the community too.
thank you.
Sure.
Can you roll back to the board and care numbers? 'Cause that didn't include any meal service?
No, it does. I'm sorry. So the food costs here, and this was based on 24 rooms, 210,000 a year. So I think it's $7 or $7.50 per meal per person. I have to go back and look at the math.
Is that federally subsidized?
Nope. These are all unsubsidized numbers. It's easier to get subsidies for construction costs, much harder to get them for operating costs.
How much will it cost to build a building?
To build a board and care?
Yeah,
Probably around $200 a square foot with furnishings versus the $315 for the assisted living. So if you're building 12,000 square feet, that's about $4.2 million, $4.2 million, $4.4 million. 18,000 feet, sorry.
whatever is still big.
And, you know, I know that the state helped with the one up in Torrington, not a lot, a little. I think they maybe chipped in 20 or 25%. But they actually got a loan from a mortgage from a local bank to build the rest of it.
The city of Torrington runs that then?
I don't think it is the city of Torrington. I
Is
think
it
it's,
a private owner?
I think it is. Evergreen Plaza Development, I believe.
So how much do these costs change as we progress down inflate? Like, obviously, the government isn't gonna roll out new, social security numbers anytime soon, but, I mean, do you feel like these operating costs, just what you've reviewed, are they really subject to inflation?
Well, obviously, when I started this, we didn't really have inflation, right? I mean, I started in September, I think, and inflation wasn't even a blip on the horizon. Now we're at 8.5%. And so, you know, utilities, food costs, transportation operations, we don't have it in the board and care. I mean, those are all up, you know, by probably 10% since I started this project. And so if we wait, they're gonna go up, barring some unusual activity in the world. These costs are gonna continue to increase, and you'd have to obviously build in some kind of an annual increase for tenants. You know, the other thing is, I don't think we, the community, the town of Pine Bluffs, are gonna run something like this. I think you might build it and you might contract someone to operate it. I forget the name of the gentleman we met with from the hospital.
Ken Hunter.
Ken Hunter, thank you. You know, you might retain the hospital to run it. You might retain a local church group to run it. But I don't think we, the community, want to be in the business of providing board and care facilities. I could be wrong. Most communities I know couldn't do that effectively unless they were large cities that had, you know, established programs. And you're talking about, in this instance, it's only 8 employees. You know, in the assisted living facility, it's much larger because you have the full-time nursing staff and a bigger kitchen crew. But it's hard for a community to run something like this, just because of the regulations and the need for, you know, ongoing review of regulations, healthcare providers, and all those things are significant issues.
Well, I think to that end, though, that unless, I mean, so you've left out, not, you didn't do it maliciously or anything, but you've left out one of the important parts of that, that unless they're gaining all of their profit through programs, there's going to have to be a profit number in here
Sure,
for the private sector.
right. But we hadn't made that decision, and I can advocate, but I can't make the decision for you.
You're not expecting us to make a decision tonight about going?
Not at all.
I'm just joking.
I would have wrote a motion for the agenda, but
We'd screw it up anyway, but yeah, that's good thinking.
Perfect, thanks, Jeff.
okay, thank you.
Any other visitor comments?
Mayor, I was on the consent agenda for my building permit, and I was gonna bring up a question at that time. My street in front of the house, 2nd Street, and as well as Chestnut Street, both those streets are not finished. I have gravel on 2 sides of my house, actually a gravel strip, which is actually part of the street. With my garage, I was hoping to, it's gonna be budgetary, of course, as we talk inflation, my shop is definitely reducing in amenities. However, I was going to bring a driveway to the north from the shop out to the street line. And I was hoping to maybe try to curb and gutter around my house. However, if I go to that expense, I'm going to be curb and guttering up to a gravel street. Where is the town at possibly on finishing the streets around my neighborhood on paving those? I just want to put that on your guys' radar. I asked Moore and he says, you know, I guess we kind of keep burying this hatchet. Don't know where we're at on it. So I just want to keep it in everybody's forefront. It would be not, and also, you know, I've maintained that dirt strip in front of my house for 10 years by getting a backhoe or getting a skid steer every once in a while and moving the gravel back into it. That has washed out because it floods pretty bad. So.
Well, the problem you have too is it's not unheard of to have gravel up to it, but if we don't have any engineering where the curb and gutter should be,
Correct.
Then that's going to be a
my
problem.
question is I need to find out exactly where the street line is because when we pour the driveway, you know, we'll obviously put in curb approaches, you know, to match into the driveway. So.
well, that's something we will need to take a look at.
Yep,
I'll just be honest, it wasn't on my radar anyway, so.
right. I just wanted to, get it out there that,
Sure.
if you guys ever think, you got a cool $500,000 sitting around looking for a home,
We did last week. You came a week too
Oh,
late.
okay.
But,
All right.
so yeah, I think, something we can obviously
Okay.
discuss and look at.
Because it's been several years ago, I had my camper park there, and I was told it was part of the street, in that dirt part of the street, and I was told I'd move my camper off the street. But now, now we actually have a guy who has a boulder, which would technically be in the street. We have people maintaining part of their yard as part of the street now in that neighborhood. So they're actually mowing grass in what, if you look down the curb line, would be part of the street, so.
Honestly, I would need to go take a look at it.
Yeah.
When you look down to the east though, you have a good idea of
Yeah, I mean, you
where
can
the-
line up with Tim Lang's property and you can kind of line up, there's curb approaches coming around. So
Right.
you can line up the curb approaches on each end of the block, but
Sure.
everything in between is either lawn or gravel, so.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you, Derek.
Nope, thank you,
And we'll
and thank
try
you
to
for,
Mayor,
look into that.
has that ever been surveyed over in there for elevations and
I
whatnot?
have no idea. It's been like that since as long as I can remember.
There is some, if I remember right, there is, corners,
yeah, there is pans,
yeah,
corner
pans and poured concrete corners.
It might not be too big a deal to get a plan and profile. I mean, it has to be done by an engineer, but it sure would be a shame to have everybody guessing at that and then find out they didn't match or something.
Right, I didn't wanna go and put something in and either have to add into or pull back or.
I think we had a fair amount of that on Black Street and some people had to make some adjustments later, which isn't
Right,
the handiest thing.
right, so before I did anything, I wanted to, and I can leave my driveway short and leave the pan approach short until, maybe get something done, but I just wanna put it out there that I'd like to, finish it out and I wanna try to make that side of town look nice and make my property look nice. I
Sure.
talked to the gentleman that's putting in the house next to me, and he was the same mindset, he would like to put in some curb and gutter as well. And, he wants to make that property look nice as well, so.
Mayor, one thing we maybe ought to do going forward, like when they develop pieces of the north property is, require the developer to get a plan and profile for the streets, even if we're not requiring them to be paved.
Sure.
That should be part of the development standard.
Yeah. That was probably, who knows, maybe that was probably part of the original, that person put that house that I'm in, but never followed through, and now we're all, me and you guys are stuck with trying to figure out a plan.
Sure. How do you feel about sidewalks?
I like a sidewalk, but my yard on the north side of my house, if I were to put in a sidewalk, 3 feet of sidewalk, I'd be putting a sidewalk right up next to my front porch, so I don't know. And of course, budget too. Like literally from my steps down to where the edge of the street looks like it would be, is probably only 10 feet or so, 10 or 15 feet, or 10 or 12 feet from where my deck comes down to where the edge of the street would be, so.
So the drawings you gave us, I thought it was estimated at like a 24-foot setback on your shop, which aligned with your house.
Correct, but my deck sticks out and then my steps come down another,
Okay.
So. I mean, deck and steps, that adds up to about 10 or 12 feet, 24 feet, 12 feet. My
Sure.
steps are 12 feet from the.
On the north side of that street, there is radius is already poured on
On the
Chestnut and on Walnut.
Walnut,
On the south,
On the north side it is, they're already
the
there.
north side of his property.
And there is curb and gutter around Derek's headed south on Chestnut.
correct.
And then it ends just past his driveway.
Yep. At the property line pretty much then.
Yeah. I remember pouring them years and years and years and years and forever and years ago.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
anything else? Any other visitor comments?
I'm here to ask tonight, the leadership for the town of Pine Bluffs, why a outside entity was hired to do the mowing of the lawns the town of Pine Bluffs Public Works Department usually takes care of. Why that was done.
So it was done in an effort to do a better, to do a more timely job from the mowing standpoint, but as a side benefit to that, we felt like we spent a lot of hours mowing with public works people. And we didn't spend a lot of time, for instance, running our, street sweeper and jetting sewers and numerous other projects that we really need to be getting to. So in the process was at least from my perspective, and I can only speak for myself, but from my perspective, the easiest load to transfer to someone else was, a certain number of the park's functions we needed to bid out anyways. For instance, we weren't maybe getting as good a coverage or as good a job on fertilizer and herbicide, and so honestly, we were gonna sub some of that out anyway, so in order to get all of these other functions done, it was decided that that was the most efficient thing to sub out to free up our people to do other works in the Public Works Department.
How much was that contract for?
I don't recall, 100.
I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but it was a dollar amount that basically fit into the existing budget. We did not have to increase the parks and cemetery budget at all to make that happen. Because the contractor is not only responsible for all the work, but all the materials and all the fuel and all the personnel to make that happen. We also found it increasingly difficult year after year to find seasonal help that was with us for the entire growing season, as opposed to maybe just a portion of the summer. Like if we had school teachers, we would only be able to keep them for, I don't know, till the beginning of August sometime. So it was not an increase to our annual operating budget for those two departments. We also don't have the certification for chemical spraying, and so that is why we would always have to sub out chemical spraying.
So since that releases more public works employees to do other jobs around town, does that mean they're gonna start sweeping the streets?
I think we made one pretty good pass, early, like,
They did
I
the
would say a
entire
month
town
ago.
in April. Since
But-
then, we've had another snowstorm.
But,
so.
yeah, that's the objective. We're trying to work out a more consistent plan. We had, for instance, here's something, our dirt roads that we do maintain, were not getting maintained. Since then, we've kind of stepped that up, so people are spending time doing that. I agree with you that it's time to get the street sweeper back out, but we are really efforting, trying to get to those things, and things that people don't see, frankly, and I understand how the streets are obvious, but the sewer jetting and those type of projects, I feel like we're going to get a better handle on those than we have in the past. We're supposed to be on a routine schedule with that. I think we were falling quite a ways behind in that process, just to maintain our system. And so that's just one thing, but
Is there an SOP for the street sweeping? In other words, a maximum speed to be doing it? Because I know when they did it in April at the corner of 6th and Main, they left more gravel in the belly pan than they picked up probably on Main Street, because it was 7 inches deep all the way across that intersection. And I don't know how that happened, but, and I noticed it on 2 other streets also. They were going, to me, way too fast. And I don't know if they weren't dumping the street sweeper often enough or what the problem was, but there was piles of gravel up and down Main Street on both sides of the street.
okay.
So I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a standard operating procedure, but we could certainly look into
Okay.
it and discuss your concerns with them.
Also, I notice our pretty white flowers are back again, and people are not doing anything to get rid of their noxious weeds. Bindweed is starting to show up already. And I noticed that for all the good work that was done around town about a year ago and cleaning up people's property, it's got back to a state of disrepair again, and there's some people that just frankly don't care. And I think it's disgusting the way parts of this town look. And I wish the town would look at that to make that beneficial for the beauty of this town, if you could.
Sure. Well, we are starting to roll out our summer nuisance complaints or letters, collecting the information, and I agree with you. If I could have a magic wand and we could make it all better, we would, but Alex can attest to that, and everyone else involved. We have like a particular property right now that, I don't know, we're probably 6 months deep into trying to figure out one property. And trust me, it's not from a lack of effort. And this is not defensive. I'm frustrated as well that I'm not frustrated that people have personal property rights. I'm frustrated in that it is difficult to I appreciate people's personal property rights, but when it becomes a problem for everyone around them, it's not like we can just, ring a bell and make it all disappear. We have processes and.
In other words, you've put in all the effort, but the homeowner hasn't, to try and get this
In the
alleviated.
particular case I'm talking about, yeah, we've put in a tremendous amount of effort and time on numerous people's parts, and that's for one property. And that doesn't, I assure you, that doesn't mean we're throwing our hands up and walking away from the situation, but it's a process, and Alex could attest to the legal system and all of that business, but I think, I'm saying in general, not in specifics. It's a process.
Okay, all right.
So, but in terms of the ordinary nuisances, I think we're on track to.
Okay, thank you.
Just, it might be helpful for you to understand that in general, it's difficult to pull off a forced abatement based on visual decisions. And the reason for that is simple. It's hard to tie what you look at to health, safety, and welfare. Now, there's, vermin running around in there. That's tied. So, if something looks bad, beauty obviously is in the eye of the beholder because the person living there thinks it's just dandy. So, it's more difficult to hit the standard. And that's why, especially as a local government, where, we had one in Cheyenne, and I'll try to make this brief, but it was way worse than anything you've seen in Pine Bluffs. And we sent the sanitation in there with front end loaders and hauled it away. And I told the boys, take lots of pictures, and they did. And it wasn't 2 hours till the ACLU attorney showed up in my office. And I started throwing down 8x10s, and they took one look at the rats, and they said, sorry to bother you. So, I'm just saying, had that not been able to be documented, we'd have been looking at probably a 1983 action, and those things are ugly, and there are groups around that love to bring them.
I'm sure of that. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to department reports.
For the senior center, they've submitted most of their grants and most are back with accepted budgets. A little disappointed that YDOT didn't give them anything for a new driver, but maybe a new vehicle, but they haven't heard back. They're finishing up their budget for the next year at the next board meeting. They got approval to apply for a new program to include caregiver resources and some home health services. Those jobs apparently will be available soon. And the food bank also received funding for food inventory and a glass door refrigerator, and they're ready to move in as soon as the building is finished. So, good news for the most part.
Great. Bubba?
I have nothing.
I have a few things. Tony's here tonight. He had his first meeting as ambulance director last month, so everything's going well, and we're just gonna work on some things. Hopefully the directive soon. That's something on our radar to work on moving forward. And then my next thing is not about EMS, but the mayor and council breakfast for Trail Days. As we're putting together that flyer, I was just curious what you guys wanted to do, if you still wanted to have the mayor and council breakfast, if there was something, we had all kind of kicked that around while we were cooking last summer, where we would have it, maybe how we would change that a little. So just curious if you guys had any suggestions or...
I still like my original suggestion from last year.
What was it?
I think moving it over to the volleyball courts at the distillery and doing breakfast there. But that's a lot of work, so.
I will not be here anyway, so
Oh.
I'm gonna be gone that week. So,
Who's gonna greet
Who's
everyone
who's
who
gonna
gets a
smooth all the
pancake?
people that come?
hey, that's your, you can do it.
You're passing the torch?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Bubba, you have any thoughts?
I kinda like Jana's idea. A lot of people
Well,
out there.
Tons of people out there last year.
But are we gonna be cutting into food trucks and stuff, that might be there?
Possibly.
Well, we're gonna do it pretty early.
Yeah.
I mean, another idea was to create more interest in the park situation by doing it pre-parade. If you wanna hit quite a lot of people, but
Right.
that's also pretty, all of a sudden you go from, hey, great, we got 50 people to show up, to transitioning to, how are we going to feed all of them?
I have an idea. Instead of driving in a truck, we just drive in our own little, kitchen and pass it out as we go.
Throw
There
out.
we go. Now we can get everybody, yes, there we go.
Well, as the Trail Days Committee chairperson,
Yeah.
what do you feel would be the best? I'm open to either.
Yeah, I am too. I really am liking the Saturday morning concept, just for the simple fact of keeping people in the park on Saturday.
Will that
And how much,
interfere?
that's my only fear is influencing whether people eat the lunch.
Will that interfere with the Lions Club lunch deal in there at the park?
Well, the lunch is scheduled to be served at 11. I don't know, if we shut it down by 9, is that too close? Like, maybe it is, so,
It'd be too close for me personally if I
Yeah.
was eating. But, it's a fun day, you eat more.
I'm a
so
chubby
maybe
guy, I can eat anytime.
Well, now I'm in agreement with them.
yeah,
I think we should just try to move it out there, and if it's not successful, we'll move
yeah,
it somewhere else.
let's do it.
Great.
Do we wanna have pancakes or biscuits and gravy?
Both.
Or both. I mean, in the past, we've had,
Well, we kinda have to have an oven for one, and I'm
We
sure
can
we
do
can get the
donuts.
griddle for the other.
I always
Yeah,
go for donuts though.
I don't care. Like, you've done the biscuits and gravy thing, all I've done is a pancake thing, so I don't know.
I don't know, it was,
could always have biscuit, have the ones that you just keep warm and like
right, that's what we did in the past. They were
Yeah.
Well,
pre-made,
Yeah.
bought ones.
Menu to be decided,
You
but we
didn't make
will
them?
have it
You didn't make them from scratch?
at Pine Bluffs Distilling on Sunday morning.
Assuming they're okay with that.
Yeah, somebody will check. with
Yeah, and Teresa was at the last meeting and we kind of kicked that around, so we can double check, that should be okay.
Yeah, let's double, yeah,
Yep. Thank you.
great. Tom?
We went to the WHAM convention, and on the resolutions, there was 18 resolutions. One failed, and the other one was withdrawn by Jackson. They didn't go. And all the liquor ones passed, so they're gonna, out of the 16 that passed, they're gonna pick 4 or 5 of them and put their effort into 4 or 5 of them. And there must have been about, 150, 175 people up there at the conference, so.
Yeah.
And the class I had the last day when you left was the
Sorry.
best class of the day. That was
I'm
a
sorry.
4-hour class. It was on team management, teamwork, and it was really, really good class.
I guess I should have stayed.
Yeah, you should have. You would have won your gift.
Yeah.
She left and didn't win the raffle because she had to be there. That's all I have.
Thanks, Tom. Alex?
We're holding our own, a lot of work with PD. And, some projects, with the folks here, and we're chipping away on it. Good.
Tony, since you're here, do you have anything?
No, I think some of the reporting that I'd like to do is to give the council at least the minimum of how many calls we're running monthly.
I don't know what it is.
And then how many of them turn out to be transports, because we do end up having, some refusals, and some people just need, a little assistance with something, and then we don't transport. I just felt like that was important for the town council and mayor for you to have. We are trying to plan for the next trauma conference sometime late fall. The conferences is a huge part of our continuing education. We have to have so many to be recertified every 2 years. And then I think just working on continuing training and, team building and looking at everything we can positively and going forward from there.
Great. Thank you. Jackie?
I don't have anything.
Kim?
Just finishing closeout of this fiscal year. Our bonds were closed on the 8th. So we received our first distribution already from the county for 6 penny for the month of May. So we're,
Win.
He
No.
said wind.
He was telling me.
I just got the word today that it had gone through. And so, anyway, we are already, some of those projects are already underway. So now we can really start putting the shovel to the dirt and getting going on them.
Great. Anything else? Announcements, meetings?
Yes. So June 29th will be our special and our committee of the whole. If you guys are all on board, we have some stuff we need to take care of, at least for a special meeting. And did you want to hold that at 4:30 again?
That works for me. Does that work all right for you? Or are you?
My schedule is constantly getting busier. Children. I think it'll work this time, but I'm going to politely request in the future it be later in the day. My boys started doing jujitsu over in, I was about to say Brazil, in Cheyenne, and that is 4:15 to about 6 o'clock on Wednesdays and Fridays. I mean, I could have my baby daughter here if you're good with that.
Do we have to have the meeting on a Wednesday?
No, it is,
Can we just change it to a different day?
Probably.
I mean,
My schedule keeps changing, so right now, yes.
'cause I'd rather have it at 4:30 or 5 instead of going later, you know, 'cause that's kinda nice, 'cause you're out of here by 6.
I get that, but that is going to be very hard for me once I start working August 1st.
Well, quit your job.
I just started.
well, let's get through the next one.
Yeah, and
Sounds
just,
good.
Yeah,
And-
yeah,
oh,
this
and
next
then-
one should be okay.
And then
Make it
July
work.
11th will be our regular meeting.
Okay.
I also have a meeting to announce on June 22nd at 6 PM at the Community Center. Michelle from Wyoming Rural Water will be holding a public meeting, and it's on our source water protection plan. It's a requirement that we hold this public meeting, so
What time is that?
at 6 PM,
It was June, what again?
22nd,
I had that right, good.
at the Community Center.
Anything else? I would hear a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
I got one more thing first. I just wanna, the people that did the cemetery, the city park, they did a great job. That fence up there around the cemetery looks gorgeous. All the grass is cut in every park in town, so it looks really, I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, thank you. I'll
Does
let the
look very
contractor
nice.
know.
Yeah.
We did have to treat for grubs, by the way, because they did find grubs while they were digging for the fence.
dang it. Okay. I move to go into executive session.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.